Good morning and good afternoon to all delegates who have joined us today. On behalf of Global CIO Forum, I would like to welcome you all to our exclusive web summit today on Modernize Your IT Infrastructure with the Power of Azure, brought to you by Cloud4C and powered by Microsoft. Joining us today are some extremely amazing speakers from the Cloud4C team. Kareem Kalawi, EVP Alliances from Cloud4C, Ravi Tang, Vice President, CSP Cloud4C, and Tushar Kumar, Cloud Solutions Architect from Cloud4C. The team shall be addressing you today with various topics such as IT framework for cloud and business transformation and how to adopt the new edge in the new normal with better TTCOs and compliance. The Cloud4C would also be talking about their cloud adoption framework, focusing on cloud adoption, cloud governance, application modernization, operation efficiencies, and much more. The team shall also be addressing on how they can help achieve the digital edge required for business transformation as well. So this and a lot much more to it today. Welcome, Kareem. The floor is all yours to take.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity. So I'd like to start first by introducing myself. My name is Kareem Kalawi. I look after alliances at Cloud4C. Let me just open up my camera as well. And basically, we at Cloud4C are a born in the cloud provider working with multi hyperscaler cloud providers like Microsoft on a number of initiatives. Most of those have fallen around the modernization of data centers and the transition to cloud to more or less reap the benefits of cost optimization as well as speed and manageability. So I wanted to walk you through quickly on a bit about our expertise in the cloud. So Cloud4C is an 8-year-old company. We're part of a larger group called Control S. And Cloud4C is strategically focused on managing cloud services, specifically with hyperscalers like Microsoft. So in that space, we have, as of earlier this year, about 40,000 VMs that we manage in the cloud. We have provided more than 1 billion hours of managed services in the cloud. And we have more than 1,800 cloud experts that specialize on services in the cloud. If I want to drill down a bit more about who we are, so if you look at the globe, we're literally present across all continents. So our regional headquarters in Middle East and Africa is here in UAE, but we have an extensive presence in the GCC with Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, as well as Bahrain. We're present in the Americas, both in Latin America, Central America, as well as North America, Europe, and our center of operation and service delivery is in India. However, our headquarters is based in Singapore. And we have an extensive footprint throughout Asia as well as Australia. Now, going back to the core topic, and specifically, we're talking today about the move to cloud on Azure. One thing that Cloud4C has focused on in the last 4 years is building up its capabilities and specialties on Azure. And in that specific context, we have now more than 600, close to 670 Azure experts, certified experts. We were able to achieve Microsoft's highest specialization, which is the Azure Expert MSP. And I've put in some interesting quotes from Microsoft on the screen. But beyond that, we've also added some specific advanced specializations. Those specializations are on our, let's say, one of our core offerings, which is enterprise applications like SAP, moving them and managing them on cloud. And more importantly, for the commodity workloads that are built on Microsoft Windows Server and SQL Server, we've also achieved that advanced specialization. This gives us the capability to have an end-to-end cloud lifecycle management with a very high level of expertise. And you don't need to take our word for it. You can actually rest assured that Microsoft has validated this through third parties. We have been actually audited in every single specialization, including the Azure expert MSPs. And Microsoft has validated that we have the skills that we claim we have, and we have the references that we do. On top of that, in late July this year, Microsoft also awarded us Partner of the Year, and this was for the country of Qatar. We were chosen out of 3,300 nominations, and we won this award because of our capability to deliver a very complex Azure migration for a major government entity, and leveraging the cloud adoption framework that is specifically designed for Azure. In the UAE, most recently, we have gone into a partnership with Microsoft to migrate one of the largest banks in the region, Mashreq Bank, that has more than 240 applications across multiple business units. And this is the most recent win that we have. Of course, we have done a lot more than that, but I'll let my colleagues, Ravi and Tushar, walk you through a bit more details onto what we do and how it would benefit you.
Call upon our next speaker for the day, Mr. Ravi Tang, to please join us. Hi, Ravi, welcome. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Ravi Tank, and I am heading the cloud practice at Cloud4C for the MEA region. So today I will discuss on how organizations can build agile frameworks, right, which supports the business. So let's take a look at it. So today what the organization is looking at is to build a fault tolerance model on IT with the maximum availability, compliant and secured, as well as from the cost standpoint, it should be easy on the pocket, right? So what we encourage and what we suggest that to all the organizations is that what they should be doing is they should build a couple of frameworks. So there are like 5 frameworks which we have identified that any organization should build first, and then look at how they can take their journey towards the cloud. The first framework which we talk about is that you should be building something like reshaping and building operations resiliency framework. This will focus on business functions modernization, basically modernizing IT. Along with that, you will get the maximum availability and agility, right? The second framework which we talk about is infrastructure management and operations framework. This is to support faster and smart informed decision making system. So basically what we are saying is that you should be building a IT management framework or redesign IT management framework where you can bring in lots of automations. You can bring in something like a robotic process automation kind of a thing where you can easily identify the alerts of your IT system and you can remediate those alerts within no time, right? So there are many false positives comes in. There are many alerts been thrown by application, by security things, right? And you need to identify those. So today, if you do it manually, it takes time. But if you automate this type of alerts handling, right, through some kind of a process, then it brings in real efficiency to the business. The third framework which we talk about and encourage is from a security compliance framework. So here, what we are talking about is that every organization should carefully remap their current security tools, redefine the security operating procedures, automate the cyber detection, and define automated action plans. Right? Again, we are talking about automation part here. The fourth framework is towards the business continuity, where you should be focusing on achieving the zero data loss and maximum availability for your IT. Right? And the last framework which we talk about is from a workspace modernization standards. So here it will allow your employees and vendor to work from anywhere, ensuring the governance and compliances. Right? Now, before we talk about how we can help you and what type of cloud or framework we have built, right? I would just like to take you through few of the case studies here to help you understand that how we have helped organization to transform towards cloud, right? So this particular organization here, we are not taking the name due to the NDS, but this organization is into the FMCG distribution services, and their major challenges were uptime, security and compliances, agility, cost, instability, and integration. So they do this is like a B2B kind of thing. So they do lots of integration with the business, right? So their on-premise workload, which is mostly on .NET Java, they also had SAP ECC deployed and various type of databases here, right? So this whole thing, what we did was we helped them migrate onto cloud. So what we did was in a phase one, we did a complete end-to-end workload assessment. We prepared the migration blueprint with the approach, with the migration methodology, with the timelines, and options available. And we also built the TCO. Last, what we did, we migrated into the cloud. So here, once in a phase one, when they were migrated to the cloud, not only they got the benefit of our 28% TCO, but they had the better SLAs and the governance, security and governance in place. The proper security and governance, I would say, in place, right? The phase two, what we did for them was we helped them modernize their application and the security posture. So with the phase two, they had a further benefit of around 18% because they converted most of their applications into cloud native. So the applications which were running on .NET or Java, right, they were migrated onto the cloud natives with like containers, and some of them with other services. And their databases were converted into the Azure managed instances and the PaaS databases. So here with the phase two, right, what they got was better integrations with the vendor and distribution systems. They got improved security posture, resulting in 100% of the compliances. And obviously, they're getting the better SLAs. The second case study which I would like to talk about here is this is for the government entity, and my colleague talked about that we were recognized by Microsoft in Qatar for the Partner of the Year. So this is the case study which I'm talking about. For this particular organizations, we got this recognition. So here I'll take very quickly that the infrastructure posture was like around 1,000 plus VMs with a mix of SQL and Oracle databases. They had a different challenges here on when they were on premise and when they wanted to go onto Azure. So the major challenge what they had was in for this particular agency or any agencies in the country is that they have to pass through the government network hub. So they cannot directly access, they cannot have the directly links onto any of their infrastructure, whether it be it on Azure or be it on premise, right? They need to take the secure pipe or the secure links from the government. So the challenge here was to build the government network hub on Azure. So what we did was we built a hub and then we created different subscriptions which acts as a spoke here. So around this was built for 52 agencies. Another challenge was from a government side was that the security part. So they already had a SIEM tool which is QRadar in country. So what we did was we helped them migrate Azure Sentinel with the QRadar and hand in hand. So the QRadar will take care as a SIEM, it will act as a SIEM, whereas Sentinel will act as a SOAR, which is automation for the security part. Right? So another challenge in this was the Oracle database. So you know that like Oracle, if you deploy it on premise, you can do the Oracle real application cluster. But if you go on any other public cloud like Azure or AWS, right, you cannot have the real application cluster. You need to have the different mechanism to build the Oracle. So what we did was we did various POCs with them to understand how the application is behaving, and based on that, we created a Oracle environment which offers the maximum availability with the 99.95% of uptime, and with the auto you can say failover, or you can say with the highest SLA. Right? So this was done for an Oracle database, and other databases like SQL and MySQL were converted into the PaaS databases here. The last case study, this is mainly focusing on data localization solutions on Azure. So what we have is we have something called data localization framework. With this, we help the organization to build their entire greenfield platform onto Azure. So the major challenge here was they cannot have anybody taking the data out of country or access the data outside the country. The data has to remain in country. All the access or any changes you do, you cannot take the data out of the country, right? So here, what we did was we created the secure landing zone, and with the technology stack, we help them insert the subjective logic into their application so that whenever the users are accessing, right, there are certain parameters which are checked based on the user from where it is accessing, what they're trying to do, what type of user it is, what type of role this user is having, and based on that, application used to do the processing of the data, right? So here, this what we did was we built a complete REST framework for them because this is for the BFSI industry, and this was a greenfield application, right? So end-to-end data localization solution was built through the Cloud4C, Cloud Awesome framework, and various other security and IT operations framework.
On that note, I would like to call upon our next speaker for the day, Tushar Kumar. He is a cloud solutions architect for Cloud4C. Hi, Tushar, welcome, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Ravi, for the brief introduction, what all we have done in the past. So basically, I'll start with the note. So any transformation requires a framework. So when we are bringing in the digital transformation within your organization, so Cloud4C has a well-defined digital transformation framework. And today I'll take you through the digital transformation framework that we have built based on our experiences and based on well-defined frameworks that are available within the industry. So when I talk about the modernization part, so when we are talking about IT modernization, we look into the modernizing your IT solutions, accelerating the business, and simplifying the business process. So within this, Cloud4C has got 4 motions where we are doing the infrastructure level modernization, application level modernization, database level modernization, as well as modernizing your workplace in terms of technology. So this will help you to achieve the accelerated digital transformation, and you will be able to customize the solution based on the requirement as well. Okay, sorry, my slides is giving a little bit of thing. Okay, so whenever we are talking about the business transformation, we start with the phase where we are looking at the definition of how the plan is going to be. Then we will be looking into the business agility around it. And the last pillar is going to be bringing the digital edge into your organization. So when we are looking into the different definition phase, we will be looking at the DC part where we are looking from the infrastructure perspective, your application perspective, your database perspective, and your security perspective. So when I talk about modernization programs, so when we are getting into infrastructure, we have to look into each and every aspects of your infrastructure in order to make a perfect design that will be scalable, that will be robust, and that will be highly available for you when you are moving into the cloud. Once the planning phase is completed, we will be looking into the governance phase of it. So any cloud adoption requires a governance in place. So if you do not do a proper governance in the environment, you will end up having management hazards, as well as you will be having from the costing perspective as well, because people will start playing around the cloud platform. It's pay as you go platform. So whenever you are giving access to the your employees, they will start doing some sort of experiments that will end up having some issues. So in order to make the proper governance in your environment, you need to study each and every aspects of how the business process works, how the security baseline works, and as well as how the identity baseline should be in your environment. Once we are done with the definition of governance, as well as when we are looking at the infrastructure part, we have options to move to cloud native services where we get a lot of cost effective solutions as well as scalable solutions with latest technologies. So either we can go with the, when I talk in terms of Azure, you can transform your applications to either Azure Kubernetes service or Azure Container Service. You can transform your cloud app, basically web applications, to Azure Application Services, also Azure Web Apps. Also, for your Exchange, you can move it to M365 stack, where you will be having more on the costing. We will be saving more on the costing side, as well as you'll be achieving the greater efficiency over that. So here, Cloud4C helps the organization bringing all these three pillars in place with all the Azure services that is available at this point of time. Once the transformation is completed, once you are on cloud, we have a well-defined managed services based on the site reliability engineering. We have AIOPs based managed services capabilities. So when I talk about AIOPs based managed services capabilities, it is a reactive and predictive operations. So whatever tasks that we can predict that might happen, whatever faults that we predict that might happen in your environment, we take the actions based on our automated response system. So let's say if there is any failure and it is a well-defined, it is a defined failure that might happen in future, or if it is a well-known failure, then our AIOps is very capable of taking the required action around it. And also the particular platform will also monitor your SLA, your performance, how your environment is working at this point of time, if there is any options to customize, if there is any option to improve the performance, or if there is any performance issues that are going on. Also, all the repetitive tasks that you do in the day-to-day basic, which is a very tiring for any admin or any cloud admin, the cloud user, we have a well-defined framework with all the automated responses and automated tasks. Once the automated task is done, we will be looking into the app from the application perspective. We'll be looking into the DevOps side of it, like building the pipeline, increasing your decreasing your time to market for any applications, any security operations that are running around. We will be automating those with the help of DevOps, which exactly is called DevSecOps. So whenever any security issues or any security fixing that you need to do, that will be happening through the continuous pipeline that is being set up. From the infrastructure deployment perspective, any deployment through your infrastructure will be done through it. So how the whole system is backed actually? So the whole system is backed with the COE model. COE stands for Center of Excellence. So Cloud4C has 22 Center of Excellence split across various technologies, and those COEs follows the well-architected framework, where we are looking into each and every best practices, what should be the best practices when we are deploying anything on cloud, or we are maintaining anything on cloud, as well as we are maintaining the cloud from the application, from your infrastructure, as well as your security and compliance perspective. So going further deep into cloud adoption framework. So when we are saying cloud adoption framework, we start with the assessment and blueprinting phase. So basically, there are two pillars of assessment and blueprinting phase, where we get engaged with first part, where we are engaging with the business side of it. So we will get engaged with the business side of it, where we are engaging with the stakeholders, whosoever is responsible for that infrastructure or the application. When we understood their vision, what exactly they want, and what are the motivation that they have, also what are the outcomes they are looking for from this migration. So once these all are collected, we go into the technical part of it. So on the technical part of it, we look into from the cloud adoption framework best practices that we have built through it, as well as based on the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework. We look into from compute side, we look into each and every compute, storage, network, as well as applications, how the applications are chatting between each other, and how the connections have been made. All those details, we look into it. Once we are done with the compute side, we look into the specific network discovery, where we are looking at the network posture of your current organization. So we look into each and every aspects of network, like how the parameter firewalls are placed, how the WAPs are in place, if you need a virtual private network, or is there any security and compliance is there. So once this part is done, we will be looking into the security and compliance sector, where we have each and every security tools, and also we have each and every security tools that you have on-prem, either mapped with Azure tools, or if there is any gaps in your security, then we will be recommending the tools required for that particular adoption. And in the end, your business continuity part of it, where we are having a look at your what all the backup policies and what all the disaster recovery solutions that you are using at this point of time, and what can be modernized in terms of whenever you are moving in cloud. Once the assessment phase is completed, we get into the migration blueprinting phase, where we look into the gap analysis, as I mentioned earlier, from the in terms of your network, in terms of your security, in terms of your backup. We look into the gap analysis. So in that, we do a full analysis that this solution you already have, or this solution you don't have. So whenever you are moving to cloud, you should be having these all solutions in terms of make your cloud adoption seamless, as well as your cloud network secure. Then what is going to be your as is landscape when you are moved to cloud, and how your machines are going to look into the cloud environment. And the last part of it is migration approach. So once the machines have been assessed, as well as the application has been assessed, so we look into the possibility of lifting and shifting the machines, like as it is migration. We're looking into the redeployment of the machine, like if we can redeploy the particular application in any PaaS platform, or let's say we can totally replace it with any SaaS platform, we can definitely do that as well. And the last option is replatforming. So let's say if there is a machine running, there is a 2016 Windows machine running an application that can be containerized, and that will be more cost efficient option for you. That is going to be the last approach for this. Once we have all the approach finalized, we get into the cloud landing zone readiness. So based on the assessment outcomes that we get, cloud landing zone a cloud landing zone roadmap will be prepared. So based on the cloud landing zone roadmap, we will be creating the cloud landing zone with all the network appliances, all the network what we have defined in the assessment phase, all the security components, as well as all the compute and business continuity requirements. So landing zone should be in such a manner so that whenever you are landing any workload to that particular landing zone, or whenever you are moving from either from your on-premises infrastructure, or you are deploying greenfield, it should be mature enough to contain that kind of workload. Okay. So once the planning and landing zone part is done, we get into the workload migration phase, where we do the migration based on the defined methodology that we are proposing in the previous that we saw in the previous slide, either lift and shift, or redeployment, or re-architect, whatever is recommended for that particular application. For the databases, we get into the terms of either we want to go with a managed database like Azure has managed instance, or managed MySQL. We can decide on that, and we will be migrating it to the Azure native database options. Once the migration is complete, we will be looking into the validation and testing of the application functionalities, where we see if the application, if there is any break in the application, and if it needs to be rolled back. And once the testing is complete, we will be doing a final cutover. That will be the final stage of the migration, where we are doing where we are completing the migration. So once the migration is complete, the continuous governance check is mandatory in any cloud any cloud environment. So in Azure, we can set up all the cloud governance things with help of Azure blueprints, with help of Azure policies, where you will be getting the full control of the governance, so that your cost is in control, as well as your users that are roaming around in your Azure environment, that they should be in control. Once everything is done, we will be looking into the innovation part of it, where we will be looking into the app modernization, what all apps we can modernize, what all databases we can modernize, what is the scope of automation out there. Like if you want to keep your machines up for sometimes only like 2-3 hours in a day, that will save you some cost as well. You can look into that perspective, from that perspective as well. If you want your backup to be automated in such a manner that it takes a snapshot of your machine at some point of time, and it keeps it for 2 days and then deletes it. So these kind of automation you can get into. Also, robotic process automation. So when I talk about the RPA, so any day-to-day task like your invoicing, that your HR process, that can be also automated with the help of RPA. So whatever you are doing, that will be automated in terms of that. DevOps and DevSecOps, we can definitely get into that. We can look into what all the possibilities we have for the DevOps and DevSecOps. Okay, so from the application side of it, when we are talking about the application modernization, or when we are talking about modernizing your infrastructure, from the application point of view, we always get a question that this particular application can it be containerized? Can we refactor it in terms of microservices? So basically, it is totally based on the dependencies and the integration, as well as the database that we have supporting from backend. We have to evaluate each and every aspects of it in terms of feasibility to make it containerized version or a refactor version in terms of either web apps, or if we go with ACR. So for that, basically we do a tool-based assessment that will give you a full view of how your application should be containerized or refactored in terms of Azure services, as well as if that machine is only feasible for lift and shift to cloud platform. So there can be multiple approaches in that. You take your application stack into containers or web apps, and you take your database to manage instances on Azure, or either you can take your database as it is, and you can move your applications directly to the web apps and all. So there will be some integration changes. There will be some code changes required that needs to be identified, that needs to be done on the application assessment phase. Okay. So how we decide that what application requires what architecture, and what application should go on what framework. So basically, it totally depends on the business requirements as well as the complexity of that particular application. Okay. So basically, this flow shows how we decide that it is going to be either a virtual machine, or it is going to be on a HPC, but like batch processing one, or is it going to be on containers, or is it going to be on serverless? So we get into the process of evaluating an application. Based on the application outcomes that we are getting, we choose the right platform out of it, and then we give the recommendations around it, that how you should do it, and what all you need to achieve this particular framework. Okay. Once the application modernization is completed, or if you have already running some modernized applications, then you can adopt the DevOps environment in your particular application system, where the processes will be the assessment of your current environment, where we will be looking basically our DevOps COEs will look into your environment, and we will be looking into each and every aspects where we can introduce the continuous integration within your application, so that your time to market should be less. Also, your total cost of ownership should be less. So in that case, anything happening, let's say if you are having disaster recovery, that should also be automated in such a manner that there should be a zero data loss, there should be a zero downtime in terms of movement of your application. So how the process works over here is, we start with the assessment and blueprinting. As the blueprinting finishes, we do a pilot framework and testing. So where you'll see a live demo of what is happening and how things are working at this point of time. And once the pilot framework is successful, we get into a phase of implementing the DevOps lifecycle. And we do not leave the pipeline as it is. Once it is deployed, we take the full ownership of that, and we will provide the DevOps managed services as well, that will be totally managed in terms of any build failures, if in case of any breakage in the pipeline, if there is any issues with the pipeline. So in terms of that, we use all the industry standard tools. We have the capabilities around it, Azure DevOps with Terraform or Chef, Ansible, whatever required for that particular automation, we take that. Okay. In terms of RPA, if I talk, so robotic process automation is one of the key areas there where people are looking at when they're talking about any automation. So let's say if you have a workflow that is running in your organization at this point of time, Cloud4C has well-defined frameworks and well-defined structures as well for RPA that will give your organization a very good view of how you can automate the process of any any department that you're having. You can start with either your HR department, you can start with your finance. We have a well-defined structures, we have a well-defined frameworks that can help you automating the day-to-day and the tiring tasks that you have to perform each and every day, like invoicing. If you say people are uploading continuous invoices, and that needs to be uploaded into a system that can be automated with the help of RPA, and Cloud4C can help you integrate your normal invoicing system to your SAP system, or let's say any ERP system that you are running at this point. That will be totally automated. It will be a seamless flow. So that will consist of everything, like intelligent data extraction will be there, so that anything that you are doing at this point, like capturing the data from any invoices, will be automatically extracted from there. So one more aspect where we look into most carefully when we are proposing a cloud transformation or a modernization journey to any organization is the TCO comparison. So right now you are having you're spending X amount of money, and if you move to cloud, and if you have to spend X plus 5,000 or X plus 50,000, you will not be interested in looking into the cloud option. Also, you need to understand if it is going to be X plus 5,000 or it is going to be X minus 5,000. So that is the comparison that we do into this cloud assessment TCO comparison, where we look into your workloads, where we look into your servers that you are running at this point of time. So this is a live example. Basically, it is an anonymized example that we present to any customer, where we take all the environment details, like what all things you are running, how your backup is running, how your disaster recovery is in place. We do full assessment out of it. We give you the full view of what is going to be your total cost of ownership running it on Azure. So I'm trying to change my slide, it's not letting me. Okay, yeah. So in this, in terms of your data center part, where we are looking into the commercial data center and what is the highest SLA that you are maintaining, how your cooling power, each and everything will be taken into consideration. From your hardware side, from your security tools, your IT labor cost, and each and everything. And out of those, we calculate what is going to be your TCO of running that particular setup in Azure if we do it for, let's say, an year, and if we do it for 3 years, we will be looking at all the possibilities of that and what is going to be the benefit to your organization in terms of the costing. So if you see this example, we are talking about almost 54% of the cost saving post migration to Azure. So having this level of setup where we are having 237 servers and 130 workloads, we are saving almost around 54% of our total cost. Okay. So talking about security, so when we are getting into the security part of it, whenever you are either you are on-prem or you are on Azure or any public cloud, security is the most common and as well as the most important feature that you should be looking at. So every security tools as well as your security mapping should be in such a manner that it is totally like unbreachable, and if there is any attempt to breach that particular security, you should be able to tackle that kind of situation. So Cloud4C provides a managed security solutions, and within this managed security solutions, we cover end to end. That is starting from your data security, your identity and access, your endpoint securities, your application level security, as well as your network, and providing you security SOC, basically security operation center. So basically security operation center, Cloud4C has its own security operation center who manages all the security infrastructure within your who can manage all the security infrastructure within your organization, keeping in mind putting all these controls over there, whatever the requirement that you have at this point of time, or whatever the requirement that the industry needs, that will be implemented as well as that will be managed. So in terms of data security, you might need file integrity monitoring or DLP solutions that needs to be in there, and that has to be mandate within all your environment. So that there has to be some continuous monitoring needs to be done on that, so that it is not breached, it is not like sacrificed at any point of time. Even from identity and access management, any privileged identities or any privileged users should be getting a privileged identity and access management. Okay. From the endpoint security, your each and every endpoint should be in such a should be monitored properly in terms of looking at the virtual policies for the patching. It should be protected from the anti-phishing. Your application should be sitting behind like any application which is web exposed. It should be sitting behind any WAF or and DDoS protection, so that you are getting all the layer 7 benefits out of it. Also, there should be OSAP top 10 rules to be loaded on the WAF, so that you are getting the most of the WAF. Also, from the network security point of view, you should be having a next generation firewall or any parameter firewall that that your environment requires. So Cloud4C takes end-to-end responsibility for that, and end-to-end deployment as well as management of those tools. Okay. So, and there is a 24/7 global SOC that provides you 24/7 supports in terms of any security issues, as well as monitoring all your SIM alerts, as well as any vulnerability testing or penetration testing that is required to be done in your environment, that will be done. Apart from all this, we take care of the compliance part of your organization as well. So when we are moving any setup to cloud, and when we are going into the when we are adapting the cloud, we should be in such a shape that the compliance should be intact, and the compliance mapping should be totally in terms of the requirement of that particular compliance. Either it can be NISA, it can be any GDPR. It should be in such a manner that security policies as well as all the policies should be in such a manner that your environment should be compliant always, and that compliance check should be in continuous thing. Okay, so when we are getting into the security adoption framework, we bring in the best in class solutions. Either it can be cloud native or it can be ISV solutions as well. So that we can cover all the security policies, your compliance using Azure blueprints or Azure policies, your access controls, your communication security, or any cryptography, like you have a requirement of data to be encrypted in REST as well as encrypted in transit as well. That will be also taken care out of it. Okay. Once you are in cloud, once you are in Azure, there is a 360-degree defense management that we propose, that is starting with your SIM and SOAR solution, that is Azure Sentinel. It will provide you all the monitoring of each and every solutions that you are running at this point of time, from starting from your firewalls or any network appliances, and taking the automatic reaction, automatic remediation of that any issue that is causing any issues in your environment. There is a suite of products that Microsoft Azure offers in terms of security, like advanced threat protection, endpoint protection, as well as Azure policies in terms of making it compliant always. So the way we do it is we have our own research, we have our own collected framework that we use. We investigate each and every issues, we collaborate with the teams that is required, and we recover. And whenever the recovery is done from any of the incident, we improvise the solution based on that as well. So as I was talking about the compliance mapping, so we have a well-defined compliance mapping for most of the compliance that are available at this point of time. If we talk about NISA, we have all the measures given, like based on the NISA compliance, we have all the controls mapped already. It's just a matter of implementing those whenever a NISA compliance is required. If we talk about the PCI DSS, we have all the compliance already mapped, and this is not just the NISA and PCI DSS. We have we are covering all the industry standard frameworks or industry standard compliances that we are having at this point of time, so that whenever an organization walks into Cloud4C and asks for GDPR, so whenever we are going with this, we have the environment ready for that.